I, Ian Humphreys, am a private civilian, speaking and interviewing my guests on behalf of the UK Medical Freedom Alliance, and I'm protected by the Geneva Convention. What follows are my personal experiences, observations and opinions, and the information is for educational purposes only. I'm not a professional providing medical or legal advice to you or to the public. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence and use of the information from this podcast lies with you, the viewer and listener. Do your own research and use your discernment. It's not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, convey false information, cause non-trivial psychological or physical harm, to conspire to blackmail, to coerce, or to cause anxiety, alarm, distress to any man or woman. The information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Welcome to another broadcast by the UK Medical Freedom Alliance, the UK's most recognised and respected organisation advocating for every individual's right to informed consent, bodily autonomy and medical choice. We are the UK's voice of ethical medicine. Hi, welcome along to the UK Medical Freedom Alliance once again for another one of our podcasts. I'm so excited and very, very pleased to be joined today by the leader of the Heritage Party, David Kurten. We've not seen him on this channel for nearly a year, I think, and so much has changed in that time. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation to catch up on world events and events in the UK since then. So, let's have a chat with David. Please consider donating to the UKMFA. We are really grateful for all donations, no matter how small. Your donations enable us to continue to lobby for your right to informed consent and medical freedom to be upheld, and to provide resources to educate and empower the public. There are multiple options for donating. One is that you can scan the QR code that's on this video right now, or you can go to the link that is featured in the description below this video, or you can go onto our website and contribute via donor box, or you can buy us a coffee. Hi, David. Welcome to UKMFA TV once again. It's been a year since we spoke, which I can't believe how fast that time has gone. It only seems like yesterday. And so much has changed in that time. And I thought it would be just a great opportunity to catch up with you and see how things have gone for you, how it's married up with what's happened with us over the last year. I know our organisation has sort of touched base with you a couple of times during that period. And yeah, it's just really exciting to have you back on. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. All right, great to join you again. You know, I can't believe it's been such a long time. Things are just moving so quickly, aren't they? But good to catch you up, catch up for a chat.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and I know our listeners and viewers will really appreciate it. And you know, maybe we can touch on some things that you don't usually touch on with your broadcasts and your. You know, I know you do GB News still, and you've got your own channel. The Heritage Party channel too, and you know, and I regularly catch up with you that way, so I get my David Kurten fix that way.
Great. I hope it's enjoyable and informative.
No,
I do try.
I need it. The one thing I established last time we spoke actually is that it's very rarely I listen to anyone that I agree with all the time, and sometimes I get frustrated. I think I really want to disagree with him this time. But no.
another one is like spot on, yeah. That's great.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, how have things changed for you in the last year or so? Because it's been a tumultuous year to say the least. As I say, what a time it is to be alive. But my word, things have gone crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so much has happened to me over the last year. I mean, first of all, I started working for TNT and I had the David Kurten show on there back in February, and that was absolutely fantastic. And I remember, it seems a long time ago now, but the second week that I was on, we were covering the Julian Assange case in the High Court, and a couple of months afterwards he was released, and that's fantastic. You know, we didn't even imagine that would happen. So I think, you know, being part of that and reporting on that and raising awareness was fantastic. So I did the show on TNT there, the David Kurten show, for about 3 months. And then the election was called suddenly. We just had the local elections and the London elections, which was like quite intense already. And then just straight away, then the general election was called for the 4th of July. And, I was expecting it to be around now. I was expecting it to be early November or late October, but it was a snap election. So I had to leave the show and then focus on that because, I had to run the campaign for the Heritage Party as well as standing myself as a candidate. So I spent most of the end of May and June, the beginning of July campaigning, doing what I could to help all the candidates we had. We had 41 candidates standing, which was a fantastic achievement as far as I'm concerned, for the Heritage Party in our first general election. And then that happened, and it was disappointing, obviously, for me as being in the Heritage Party and as a candidate not to get in, but also disappointing because Labour got a huge majority, and that's disastrous for the nation. However bad the fake Conservatives were, as I call them, and they were bad and they deserved to get a kicking, they deserved to be kicked into the dustbin and never rise again because they're so dreadful. But so do Labour, but they're two, cheeks of the same backside, as many people quip. But there they are now in power. They got there through default, and we've just had the last 4 months of them being in power, and it's been horrible, hasn't it? I mean, everyone says that. Nobody's happy. Even the people that voted for them aren't happy.
Well, it must be frustrating for you as well when you see the number of votes they actually achieved and got in, which was probably the lowest amount of votes that they'd ever had in, I think, certainly for a long time. I mean, that's the system basically worked in their favour, but it's not exactly a mandate from the people, is it?
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's all kinds of commentary you can give and all ways of looking at it in terms of the angle. But the thing is, the system that we've got, they won and they've got a stonking majority, and that's it. The thing is, 40% of people didn't vote at all. And if those 40% of people, I mean, whatever that is, 15, 16 million people, if they'd voted, we could have had a different outcome to the election. But, it's about 20% of the electorate actually went out and voted for Labour. Yeah, they got 32% of the vote, but only 20% of people bothered to vote for them. And so, they got 9 million votes, which is the same as what they got in 2019. So they're not inspiring any new people to come and join them. They were just flatlined, but because the fake Conservative vote dropped by half from 14 million to 7 million, then Labour got the most votes, so they got in. And we are where we are now, and it's absolutely dreadful. And, I don't think the country can survive another 4.5 years of them because they're absolutely demolishing everything. First of all, they started off demolishing free speech after the Southport mass murders and locking people up just for things that they said. Some people said some unpleasant things, but they shouldn't be stuck in prison for 3 years for that. But now with the budget, they're coming to destroy the economy. They're making life terrible for workers, for businesses, and especially for farmers. I mean, I don't need to say any more about that. We all know what's going on with that, and everyone is in distress at the moment because of what they're doing. They're demolishing the economy, and I don't think this is something that is happening by default. It's not something that is just cock up. They're making mistakes. This is a deliberate attack on individual freedom, financial freedom, private property, and small businesses and farms, and people handing down property through the generations, obviously with the increase in inheritance tax. This is deliberate. This is communist, Marxist, Marxism in action that we see. And, they need to be gone. And I hope they can go peacefully somehow. We'll try and figure out a way to get that done. But that we are where we are.
Yeah, and from our point of view as a medical organisation, we realise the impact that it has from that perspective, because no matter what area we look at, and in fact, you and I discussed this last time. But it's like whatever it is, it draws you down. So so depression sets in. Your immune system gets affected because you're working and living in fear of what might happen to you if you're going to lose your livelihood, if you're going to, and so it's like a rolling effect. And then once people start to get sicker because they're worried and their immune systems have been suppressed and they're not getting any advice on how to boost their immune systems and how to survive these issues, then the NHS gets hit even harder. And the snowball just grows and grows and grows to the point where we're in trouble as a country, aren't we?
This is a continuation of what happened during the lockdown era, which very much was an attack on liberty. It was an attack on businesses. Like, businesses were told, if you're not providing essential services or essential goods, whatever they are, whoever decided what they are, then you couldn't stay open. Your business had to close. And hundreds of thousands of businesses went under. They went bankrupt because they can't continue going if they can't trade. And now we've got a similar attack on a different set of businesses and a different, set of sectors, especially the farming sector. So, and you're absolutely right. This makes people depressed, and I don't like to use the term mental health because it's overused and it's not used specifically, but it does bring on depression in some people, anxiety in some people, and it generally makes you feel down, and you need a lot of energy and a lot of spirit to get over that, if you possibly can.
Yeah, well, the link has definitely been made between your, whether you're, as opposed to depressed, if you're up and you're engaged with what you're doing and you're enjoying life, and then your immune system tends to be quite well working, which is quite high, and then if it goes the other way, your immune system does drop, and then this is when people pick up colds and flus and whatever else is going around, and and they find it difficult to fight. It's amazing, but it's how it works. It's about the spirit. I mean, all about the spirit. Let's face it. But your spirit's got to be strong, right? To live well.
Well, absolutely. I try to keep happy. I mean, I'm a Christian as well, so that helps very immensely. I would absolutely recommend that to everybody. But, obviously getting sunshine as well, eating healthy, getting exercise. And, what's been going on with the sunshine recently? I mean, you get called a conspiracy theorist if you talk about the weather. But really, I mean, now it's so obvious what's happening. I mean, it's just grey and grim all the time. And then the sun comes out in the morning, and by 8 o'clock, I see, big trails of chemicals across the sky. I mean, they've admitted that there's geoengineering going on all over the world. So, I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. Though the governments and the NGOs are telling you it's happening. So, this makes you depressed as well.
I've become a weatherman as a result of that. I've become almost like a mystical weatherman. I say to people, tomorrow's going to be terrible. They say, how do you know? So, have a look.
I mean, today the sun is shining a little bit. I mean, I've had the first 2 hours of sunshine in the last 3 weeks. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm just standing and facing the sun just to get a few rays. And that makes me happy. Just a few minutes of sunshine. It's amazing what it can do. But yeah.
Well, I think overall we've probably got a lot of hope actually because all of this is coming out, and as you say, it's becoming so obvious, and so many people are talking about that, and also they're going back again, obviously over the jabs and what was going on with those, and how lockdowns and masking affected people, and there's a lot more now being demonstrated, I think, to the world. It's taken a while, but we always thought it would take some time for it to come out, but it's being spoken about all over the world now, and it's quite exciting in a way that we're actually getting things out that we can show people.
It's good. They're even admitting some things on the mainstream media now that people are suffering injuries and heart attacks because of these injections which have gone on. But, for many people, it's too late. I mean, you got to speak out about these things at the time, because now we've got, 51 million people in this country, something like that, injected, and 5.7 billion people around the world. I mean, for them, it's too late. I mean, I hope that, many of them got a placebo, or they've, it's not going to affect them as badly as some people wanted it to, but some people are really badly affected, obviously. And, there's various inquiries coming out. And now I think everybody can realize that the people have been affected by the injections. There's absolutely no question. And, there's not just strokes and heart attacks, it's autoimmune diseases and cancers and prion diseases that are coming up. And so we have to keep the pressure on the governments to recognize this, but the injustice of this is that, in the UK, obviously, that you can get a payout of £120,000 from the government if you apply to the government, and you can show that you are over 60% disabled or something like that. But I mean, that's nowhere near enough to compensate someone whose whole life's health has been ruined. And it shouldn't be the government paying it, which comes from taxpayers. It should be the big pharma companies that pay for it. So, as I said in our conference at the Heritage Party, one of the things we would do is a Vaccines Act. Not that I call them vaccines, but, that's what they're called in the law. And, that says that we would overturn the immunity and the indemnity that pharmaceutical manufacturers have if something goes wrong with their products, because none of these things have been properly double-blind tested for safety at all. They haven't been properly tested. They're just rolled out and injected in people without any, real rigorous safety testing like you might get for a pharmaceutical product. So they need to be held responsible and pay for the injuries and deaths that occur from their products.
No, they should never have had that in the first place. And the fact that they had it tells a story before you even start, doesn't it? That's how sure their product was safe and effective.
Yeah.
Right. And so why do you need that indemnity if you've got a fantastic product? You don't get the same from car manufacturers and boat manufacturers or whatever. No. Or you don't do it. It's just
no one has such an indemnity in any other area, in any other field. It just doesn't exist. It's only vaccines for some reason. So there's an aberration which needs to be struck out of law.
Now, so it's quite obvious what you would do if you had the power, if you got there. And but I know we're very appreciative of your the way you handle things, the way you present things to people, the clarity and the evidence-based stuff that you come out with as well. It's heartening, because there's very few people in politics that behave like that, and so we're very grateful. Also,
I do have a
grateful.
science background, which helps. I have a degree in chemistry and a master's in chemistry. I was a chemistry teacher for a long time. So I just think scientifically. And when someone is trying to present you with dodgy data, it's so obvious. I see it straight away, whether it's lockdowns or injections or net zero, which is a whole other thing. But, so it's obvious. Yeah.
So the Heritage Party, because you fielded more candidates this time than ever, didn't you?
Well, it's our first general election, so we put 41 candidates in the general, so there's nothing to compare it to because it was our first one. I mean, in the local elections, we had more candidates this year than 2 years ago, where there were comparable areas. We didn't have as many as 2023. That was the high point for our candidates. We had 65 candidates, I think, in 2023. We didn't have so many in the locals in 2024, but there were fewer seats being contested. But I hope we'll beat that this coming year, because there are elections in English counties. So I want to have over 100 for the first time. That's my aim. Obviously, ultimately, I'd like to have candidates everywhere in every seat. But, we need more people. We need more members, and we need more candidates, and we need more activists to be able to do that. So, if I may, every time I go on, I ask for people to join in. Yes. Because we need, it's a numbers game, essentially. Yes. And if we want to beat the Uniparty, if we want to kick out Labour, fake Conservative, Lib Dem Greens, we can't be passive and leave it to somebody else. And I have a lot of people, they say to me, have you got a candidate for me in my area? But I can only put candidates in areas if people come and join us and stand. So very often the answer to that question is, well, you need to come and join us and stand yourself, even if it's only as a paper candidate, which means you put your papers in, you don't have to do any active campaigning, but you're on the ballot paper, at least to give people a choice to vote for someone who's not of the Uniparty. So I'm sorry, I'm taking liberties here, but please come and join us and stand. We need you to make up the numbers.
I might even clip that bit and put it out. You don't know, that's okay.
Thank you.
Find out more about the UK Medical Freedom Alliance on our website. That's at ukmedfreedom.org. That's ukmedfreedom.org, where you'll find all the information you need around open letters, our campaigns, our legal template letters, and of course, even these podcasts. You'll find details of the latest one, and you'll be able to access the previous ones too via the links there. Find out more about our team. Sign up for our newsletter. It's all there, and you can even donate too.
Now, of course, there was a major election then in America, which you've spoken about, which was amazing, actually. I mean, I kind of thought that this would happen because I've got some contacts in the States that were kind of feeding back and saying what you're being told is not exactly, especially in terms of polls, etc. That's what's going to happen. But it was still quite surprising to see the numbers.
It's fantastic, isn't it? I'm so happy. And, I thought that Trump would win, but you're never sure because you get mixed messages all over the place. I thought the polls were trying to just make a narrative that there was neck and neck and you couldn't tell who was going to win. It was more for interest. It was more to keep people hooked into the news cycle rather than admit. Because if they admit, one person is ahead or the other person is ahead, people would lose interest. But they're kind of trying to keep you gripped. But I was hearing so much coming from the United States that on the ground, in the grassroots, people were switching and flipping to vote for Trump from groups that had not voted for him in large numbers before, particularly the Hispanics. I mean, that was incredible. There's a huge swing towards Trump among both Hispanic men and women. I mean, I think that really swung it for him. So I'm so happy because imagine the alternative. It will be disastrous. But now Trump wants to take the US out of the World Health Organization. He wants to stop any censorship. He wants absolute free speech, as was envisaged in the First Amendment of the American Constitution, to come out of the Pandemic Preparedness Treaty, because he says it's a scam that undermines free speech and national sovereignty. I mean, this is fantastic. And if the US comes out of these things, well, they lose their main pillar of support. And hopefully the whole thing will just fall down and collapse and we can leave and be free of those things here in the UK
this is what I'm hoping, I suppose, and this is probably why, again, we've got some hope because Bobby Kennedy is now in place too. And we've been following him closely for a few years now, and what he's been talking about in terms of health and the big pharma. It would be really interesting to see what impacts they have in that area, because that's going to reverberate around the world. Because it's not just for America.
Oh, it's fantastic, and he's really questioning the whole vaccine narrative, which is an intergenerational, paradigm that has been built up. I mean, when I was a teacher, a science teacher, I taught about vaccines because I didn't know any better. But now I question it, and I'm seeing that none of these things have been properly safety tested, and most of them are completely unnecessary. I mean, now you give kids, vaccines for children chicken pox and measles and mumps. I mean, these were just childhood diseases.
We used to have parties for those.
Yeah, you didn't need a vaccine for them, really. I mean, so, you know, I've now come to the point, if I had children, I don't, I hope I will one day, but if I did, I wouldn't get them injected with anything, because, you know, I hear so many doctors, especially in the United States, who are, you know, natural doctors, they say that the children that don't have any vaccines are actually far healthier on average, you know, and as most individuals are far healthier than those who have been injected. And what now in the USA, you get what, 60, 70, 80 injections by the time you're 5. You know, I had about 6 or 7 on my record, but these days in the UK you get 20 or 30s. I mean, each one containing aluminium, some of them containing mercury that goes straight into your brain. And there's no wonder some people have autism. You know, I'm going to say it. That, you know, you inject kids with like 20 injections of aluminium into their bloodstream, it's going to affect their brain. You know, it's obvious.
And what they're doing, they also put this also in the sky, and then we've got fluoridation of water as well. Which again, I'm really pleased to see that Trump mentioned the other day, because the case was won in America around that, which we were waiting on that result. So there's people that are part of our organisation who are stepping up that campaign again, because they were going to fluoridate the water up in the northeast. But this is a worldwide thing. I mean, it's you know, some people think it's localised, but it's not. When you start looking around the world, they're trying to do it everywhere. They're filling the skies with chemicals. They're filling the water with chemicals. They're filling the food with chemicals. I've recently changed my diet back. I was a vegan for years, David, which I thought was the right thing to do. I've now gone back to eating meat because I can't find a vegan product that isn't full of chemicals with a list about that long. You know, it's frightening.
Well, I guess the only thing you could do is eat actually raw vegetables on, you know, or something, you know.
You got to sauce them properly.
Don't eat any processed food, but that's the problem. If you eat processed food as a vegan, you're going to get all this chemical gunk in it, aren't you? I mean,
exactly,
I know, but you're right. It's a global program, and you know, someone must be in charge of this. You know, the World Health Organization or the United Nations or Gavi or whatever.
Or
all these
above them somewhere, I guess. It feels like there's another layer somewhere above them that's pushing them somehow. I don't know, because it's very odd how they're all so in lockstep, and it's, you know, there's an agenda there somewhere that they're following. But we keep fighting, don't we?
Indeed. Well, you know, I mean, in our manifesto in the Heritage Party, I don't know of any other parties. I think we are unique. I mean, there might be some others, but we have it specifically on our manifesto that we would end the fluoridation of water in this country, because we understand that it is something that affects children's brains and lowers their IQ, and it doesn't do anything for your teeth. I mean, you know, the best thing for your teeth is not to eat sugary foods. You know, for parents to make sure that their kids don't have any refined sugar or any highly processed carbohydrates. That would do more for kids' teeth health than, you know, dosing them with fluoride. I'm not saying don't brush your teeth. You need to brush your teeth, but I've actually switched a few years ago to using a non-fluoride toothpaste, and you know, my teeth are absolutely fine.
Yeah, mine too. And I switched, and it wasn't long after that my dentist told me my teeth had been better than he'd ever seen them.
Great, yeah.
So I tried to have the conversation about fluoridation, but he didn't want to have the conversation. It was strange. You know, he's indoctrinated with this. You know, you will advise people to use fluoride, and yet, as we know, we found out the fluoride is a waste product. You know, and they just needed a way to get rid of it. And of course, follow the money. Here we go again. How are we going to get rid of it? Oh, I know. We'll tell the public that it's good for them, and we'll ship it across. And you can put it in toothpaste and water.
Well, I mean, this is astounding to me. I mean, and also that I'm astounded at myself that I didn't even think of this and connect the dots beforehand, because sodium fluoride, you have the care of substances hazardous to health cards. Sodium fluoride is a very serious toxin, and it's in all of the toothpaste. It's whatever it is, 1.4 grams per,
That's it. per litre or something. Yeah, and then
at a very, very high level.
And then they advise you to spit it out, not to swallow it, probably because they know how toxic it is.
Yeah,
and they say don't allow children to eat a tube of toothpaste, because they've had children up to the age of 7 do that and die.
Right. Yes. So and a child is not going to know the difference, because it's they've got sweeteners in there, things that make it taste nice. So some child might think, "Oh, this is nice. It tastes like sweet. I'm going to eat it."
Yeah, it tastes like strawberry, doesn't it? I think some of their toothpaste and things like that. So it's
whatever
just
flavouring you like in it, can't you? But it doesn't make it. It's still toxic. Yeah.
And people say we're not in a fight of good and evil.
But it's just, I didn't even realise this until, 2 or 3 years ago, when I was in my, early 50s. I mean, which is good. This is deeply ingrained, because you learn these things at school, and it's backed up by the dentists and the doctors and the mainstream media. They tell you fluoride is good, fluoride helps your teeth, it stops teeth decay. You get that message 1,000 times or more in your life, and you believe it. And then someone comes along and say, no, that's not true. And most people, they will just, dismiss that immediately, because it's so ingrained. The paradigms about fluoride and about vaccines, about cancer, that's another one, that I'm starting to look into and question, what causes that and stuff. And so it's really great, going back to what you started this segment with, is the RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be there with Trump, and he's going to be, smashing these paradigms. And if he smashes those things in the USA to try and get people healthy again, hopefully that will feed across the Atlantic here as well. And particularly in terms of food and diet, that's another one. We're told, eat lots of carbohydrates. They're supposed to be the mainstay of your diet, but they're the worst things. It's better to eat meat and fruit and vegetables.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, actually, whilst I've got you on then, just quickly, is about this new assisted dying bill.
Well, this is something that they're trying to bring in. Every so often, the progressives, whatever, the death cult, if you like, they try and bring this in. And, so they tried last Parliament, they tried before, they're trying again. And this seems like it's got more of a chance of getting through. But, the thing that I'm slightly heartened by is even some Labour people are saying that they're not going to vote for it, that they need strong safeguards on it. But, to me, it's a complete anathema. That we shouldn't have assisted dying. Is like a nice way of saying legalized murder, because that's what it is. It's giving doctors and friends and relatives permission to kill somebody if they say they want to be killed. And the excuse or the rationale is always used. Or what about some people who are really in extreme pain? And, shouldn't they have the right to die? But then it always expands out from that, and until you get to, the countries that have brought this in, let's put it this way: Canada, the Netherlands, Belgium. Now they're killing people who are just depressed. I mean, they're killing teenagers who are perfectly healthy, but they've just got mental health problems. And then they're diagnosing them or saying the treatment they need is to be killed. I mean, it's absolutely abhorrent. And this is what always happens.
And even where they are doing it, so I saw something in Switzerland about these new pods. Have you seen these modern-looking, futuristic dying pods, basically?
It's just horrendous.
Looks like something out of Star Trek.
I've seen them. It's horrible, isn't it? This is disgusting.
And they're investigating.
Yeah.
They're investigating one now where a woman, a mother of 2, who decided she wanted to die, They put her in this pod, and supposedly she had this, beautiful exit out into the ether, and that was the end of her life. But now they've noticed that she had strangulation marks on her neck, and they're investigating that. So they're trying to get the autopsy done, and they're fighting to get that because they can't get the evidence because they're trying to hide it by stopping autopsies. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I've seen that story, and it's very hard to know what happens, but it looks as though she didn't die properly with nitrogen asphyxiation, so then someone strangled her to death. Maybe it was a psychopath who was actually operating this pod. I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably only that sort of person that volunteers for that kind of job.
Who would want to do that? I mean, I don't understand who would actually want to do this kind of thing. Kill people for a living. You got to be something's got to be wrong with you somewhere to want to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I won't keep you much longer, David. I'm really, really grateful. It was nice to see that TNT came back from the ashes, and I saw you were on with Lembit the other day on the as is now the Pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to have legs? Is that going to get more broadcasters?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think they're just trialing it for the moment for a few hours a day, Monday to Friday. So it's not on 24/7 like it was before. No. I think they're trying to, they've got to, get a financial basis for it. So I don't know, what's happening with that. But I mean, it's nice to go and talk to Lembit, and I'm going to be on with Rick Munn soon again. Going to talk to him too. So that's good. But I'm going to say the other thing which is really good this year is Dr. Liz Evans. She came and spoke at our Heritage Party conference. So that was amazing. Fantastic. So it's really good.
I'll tell you what was very bizarre about that, though, because her speech is still on your YouTube channel. When we posted it, it got taken down.
Wow. Really? Unbelievable. Like, what did she say that was wrong? I said I don't know.
Yeah, so when you were talking about free speech in this country, I think there are certain organisations like ours that are kind of targeted, and this is something we've noticed with views on Twitter, /X, and other places too. If we keep it on Rumble, we're absolutely fine. If we put it onto Odyssey, we're absolutely fine. But YouTube, they just keep knocking us off.
It's so hard. I mean, I'm very frustrated with YouTube because I know I get hugely suppressed. And, there were 2 videos I put up just this week about climate change, net zero, and they were immediately demonetized. And I thought, I've got to take them off because that's going to affect the algorithm and affect all my other videos. Yeah. So, I get videos suppressed as well. It's so frustrating. Yeah.
And we're not even monetized, and yet they just take it off every just delete the video. Okay, thank you. Well, look, as I say, I'm very, very grateful for your time. I'm not going to keep you any longer. It's just been an absolute joy catching up with you. Wish you every success with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
And let's stay in touch and do it again, and try and maybe do it sooner than within a year.
Yeah, that's great. All right, thanks, Ian. Really good to chat to you.
Okay, bless you. Thanks ever so much. Thank you.